A few moments later.
So let's place our IC in the middle of the breadboard. So there's no other place on the breadboard for the IC but right here in the middle. So kaning line there is is dedicated for the IC. So our IC, as you can see here, as you can notice, there's a notch here and a dimple below the notch. So this dimple and notch identifies the orientation of our pin. So below this dimple is our pin number 1. So this is our pin number 1. So once we identify our pin number 1, then other pins will follow. So this is our pin number 1, number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So our 7th pin is for our ground. And here is our 8th pin, so for our VCC. So let's connect our VCC to the positive power line and our ground the negative power line. So next is our LED. So place our LED anywhere on the breadboard. Our LED, the longer leg on the left side and the shorter leg on the right side. So this is our pin, first pin. So this is for our input 1. Then the second pin is also for our input 1. The third pin is for our output 1. So let's connect our third pin to the longer leg of our LED. Since our LED is our output. So let's connect our LED and our output pin. So since our LED is our output, the longer leg of the LED to the pin number 3 or the output 1 of our IC. So let's connect a resistor in our LED. So from the shorter leg to the ground. So for our LED to be safe, let's connect a resistor. So now, ako na ibutang itong inputs. So sa input number 1 na ito, green jumper wire. So input number 1, so ibutang sa na to sa low voltage or 0 ari sa negative. So input number 1 na to is 0 and input number 2 is nasa na to sa 0. So input 1 na to is both 0 or no voltage. So now, since naman tayo connect diri sa power line diri and output diri, so ito na i-connect ang power line using a jumper wire. So from positive to positive and negative to negative. So the next part is to connect our power source. So let's see if our circuit works. So our LED is off. So our input is first input as 0, second input as 0, output is 0 since this is an AND gate, our 7408 IC. Now let's try 0 and 1. So our first input as 0 and second output as 1. So our LED is still off because 0 and 1, the output of this is 0. So let's try 1 and 0. First input as 1, second input as 0. So same with the previous one. Lagyan po ni Siga. So our output is still 0. So now let's try both of them in high voltage and let's see what happens. So our LED, nisika na ito ang LED. So both of them are in high voltage, 1 and 1. Output is 1. 0, 1. So that is our AND gate. So now let's replace our IC with same structure with this but different logic. So the 7432 IC. So let's remove our IC here and get the 7432 IC, and let's place this IC exactly the same spot where our 7408 is placed. So now let's move our inputs to the negative power line and connect our power source. So both our inputs as no voltage 0, 0, our output is 0. Now let's try 0 and 1, high and low voltage. So as you can see, nisiga itong LED. Sana. Now let's try 1 and 0. First input as 1 and second input as 0. So our LED is nisiga na po. So next, let's try both of them as high voltage. So siga gyapon. So in 7408, if there is any input that has no voltage, the output will be 0. While on our 7432, if there is any high voltage input, then our output will be high voltage. So as long as there is one input that is in high voltage, then our output will be high voltage. So next is our 7404 IC. So remove sa inyo to because our 7404 IC has a different structure since it has only one input. So let's place again our IC in the same spot, where our 7432 and 7408 is placed. Place na yun. So now, in our 7404 IC, the first pin is our, so there's a notch and there's a dimple. So our first pin is our first input, and then second pin, that is our first output. So unlike 7408 and 7432, there we have two inputs there. Here we only have one input. So the 7404 IC is called the NOT gate, or also called the inverter. So let's have a look on its function. So green as our input, and let's connect this to our ground. So our circuit is now complete. Let's connect our power source. So as you can see, isigan natin yung LED. Why? Because our input is in low voltage. So our IC inverts our input. So from low voltage, iyang gibali, mo niyang high voltage. So mao ni si 7404, iyang baliho ng imong input. So if we put this in high voltage, in the positive power line, then there is no output. And so negative, musiga siya. So nasiya ay input, nasiya output. So pang siga. So that is our 7404 circuit.